I know people have been talking about the Miami Mall alien event recently, and won't shut the fuck up about it, but I wanted to write my own experience here. Believe it or don't believe it, I don't really care, but I need to vent and get it off of my chest because it is still fucking with me over a year later. Be me. I was at the Bayside Marketplace on the 1st of January 2024 in Miami. I was just relaxing and shopping and shit. I needed to pick up a pair of new sneakers for practice. I basically had nothing to do all day, so I was not in a rush. I want to say I spent maybe about an hour just walking around before anything at all happened. Then, out of nowhere, I started to get this weird feeling. It was like every movement that I made started to feel sluggish. Raising and moving my arms, walking my legs, all of that stuff seemed to take twice the amount of effort as before. It seemed to take twice as long too. I started to feel dizzy from it and started walking over to a bench nearby. I swear, it took me multiple minutes to get there when the thing was almost right next to me, but I checked my phone and maybe only a minute or so had passed between me feeling weird and then sitting down. It was like time had slowed down or something. Everyone in the mall was moving much slower too. Parents walking with kids, groups of teenagers messing around. They were all moving in like 0.5x speed or something. I sat there for what felt like 20 minutes, catching my breath, but only 5 had passed in reality. I felt dizzier and more nauseous with each passing second. The people were just walking by as happy as can be. It's weird though, because when I looked at them, I could see these weird, distortions in the air. Like when someone is underwater and you don't see a true image. Legs can appear shorter, arms can appear shorter and change, etc. It was like this. The proportions of people seemed to change ever so slightly. Doorways that they walked through seemed to enlarge and shrink as people passed by them. I just chalked it up to feeling dizzy though. And then, in what seemed like a split second, everything just changed. I felt whiplash on my body, like I had just driven really fast and came to an immediate halt. I felt myself short of breath, then there was ringing in my ears. But time had seemed to start moving at regular speed again. My movements didn't seem so sluggish or difficult to make anymore. As soon as the ringing stopped, all I could hear were screams, the sound of shoes and boots hitting the ground, the sounds of people hitting the floor. I was still sat down, staring at one of the stores in front of me. It had a big glass window, and I saw the glass rippling, I guess, like how water ripples. The window was rippling and enlarging and shrinking and almost swaying. It did this for maybe 10 or 20 seconds, and then, pop. Out of nowhere it just shatters and sends shards flying in all directions. That is when I caught the first glimpse of the thing. The second that window shattered, it flickered briefly in place and then disappeared again. I barely got a good look at it. The only thing I knew from that brief flicker is that this thing was huge. I heard an explosion like some fireworks had just been set off and a bunch more screaming. And then I saw the thing flicker again. Closer now. It was facing toward me when I saw it. And then, when I saw it again, it was standing over me. Time seemed to slow down again in that instant. It was not flickering anymore. The thing was fully visible to me, but it hurt to look at. It felt like I was staring at the sun, like I just wanted to look away. I had to squint my eyes in order for them to not burn. It was just this 10-foot mass, completely incomprehensible. It was slender and yet bulky at the same time. It was unnaturally pale and was humanoid in shape, but none of the proportions made sense. It had deep markings in its skin that looked like some kind of symbols, letters or something maybe. It had an arm outstretched, with its long fingers pointed at me. I immediately felt like I was in some kind of a trance, that I was rooted to the spot and could not move. My brain kept telling me, over and over, just do what it says, just obey it. I could not think about anything else. I wanted to think of my family, to think about going home, but that was the only thought that I could have. Just obey. I could feel blood dripping from my nose, but I can't move my hand to wipe it away. I can hear a voice in my head. What I think was a voice anyway. It was not saying anything that I could understand. It was just this deep vibration, almost like a humming. I could feel my legs moving without me telling them to. I could feel myself walking and hobbling along. I was moving closer to the thing. Every single movement I was making I was completely conscious of, but I could not stop or change these movements. 1 second I am walking, and the next second I am standing over someone, another human. And the next second my hands are around their throat. They are bleeding too, but from their eyes. I can only see the whites because the eyes are rolled back. They are just squirming and making these awful gurgling noises, and I am choking them to death. And I am trying so hard, but I can't pull my fucking hands away. And the next second, they are not squirming anymore. The creature is over me again, and is saying or humming things in my head. It's holding its hand out towards me again, but this time, everything just goes completely white. When I woke up again, I was back in my bed at home. But it was the day before for some reason. The date was December 31st, 2023. I could not fucking believe it. Everything felt so real. I just dismissed it, and I went about my business as usual. I never went to the mall again. I just ordered my shit online to save myself the hassle, and I just lived my life. I was 20 years old when this happened. I am 41 years old now, or rather, I fucking should be. That does not make sense at all, but let me explain. I went about my life, I went to work, I went to practice, all the usual stuff. Things were a little off. Never enough to really pull away the veil fully, but always enough to make me think, wait, what the fuck? My father was in jail. He got life in prison for gangbanging when I was just a boy. But now he was at home. He never went to jail. I asked countless times about it, but no one had any clue what I was talking about. My sister's birthday, I could have sworn was always the 14th of February. I would always tease her and make jokes about it, but her birthday was now in July. I remember I went to this cake shop and got a personalized message. Just something really fucking dumb that I can't remember. Some dumb meme or some shit. She saw it and she laughed but was like, "Why did you get me this?" And when she explained, she looked at me like I was an alien. Just small discrepancies like that. Stuff that my brain could write off and explain away. But as I got older, these discrepancies would become more blatant. People would just seemingly disappear from existence. One of my good friends from high school, he stopped showing up at hangouts. I could not get a hold of him on the phone, and texts would not go through. None of my friends remembered him. They told me I had just made some guy up. But then, in the next breath, they would make an inside joke that the missing friend had come up with. And when I pressed them on the joke, when I asked who came up with the joke and how did it start, they could not tell me. Their only explanation was just, "Oh, I don't know, we've just always said it." It was like he was cut out from existence, but just his person. Anything he said or touched or altered still existed. This began to happen more and more often. To people I was close to, and also people who were barely a footnote in my life. Some people, it seemed like they had complete personality transplants. They would act one way, and then the next day would show up like an imposter. They would be speaking with different accents, becoming offended at things they used to find funny. They would just say things really out of place to me. And after around 20 years, when I was 40 years old, things finally culminated. I was driving home from a long shift at work. I was really tired, and it felt like I was going to fall asleep before I made it back home. I could feel my eyes drifting every now and then. I could not stop though. I promised my wife I would be home on time. We had just recently had a second kid, and she was really struggling. The only thing truly keeping me from falling asleep at the wheel were these intermittent flashes of light. They were almost blinding, and were coming somewhere from above, off to the left of me. Just every 5 minutes or so, just boom. Completely bathed in bright light. I'm surprised I did not fucking crash. But then I saw some kind of silhouette in the sky. I thought it was a plane or a jet or something. I saw it fly right past, but it was obviously way off in the distance. And just as I was rounding one of the last corners to get home, I saw the flash again. But the flash was not on me this time. It was coming from my street. When I pulled up, I could not see anything. I unlocked the door and said I was home, but I did not hear the usual sounds of tiny footsteps running towards me. My wife did not say a word. I was worried she was mad at me. I got up to the bedroom and flicked the light on. No one was in there. I searched every single room in the house and just nothing. The only thing I could find on the bed were clothes. They looked like they had been worn, and I saw piles of dust in them. I don't know how else to describe it. I panicked and ran to my neighbor's door to ask where they were and if he had seen anything. I was going kinda crazy and was banging with a lot of force. I banged so hard, his door swung ajar. I'm strong, but not that strong. It must have been left unlocked. I stepped in and called his name, but I did not get an answer. I knew he was not at work. There was no sign of him in the house. There was no sign of anyone on that entire street. I checked every single last fucking one, and not a soul. Every door was unlocked. Every room had some of that dust. I just broke down fucking crying in the middle of that street, until I got hit with that light again. But it did not stop this time. It was not just a flash. When I came to again, I was in some kind of military getup. I was on a battlefield somewhere. We were firing at more of those things, but they kept disappearing and reappearing. I would watch as other people would shoot at them, and then their heads would just pop, and they would go limp, and then it was my turn, and then everything went white again. But I felt it. I felt and heard that fucking pop. It hurt more than anything I've ever felt in my life. Even though it should not have been possible, because I would have been dead. I felt parts of my brain slop against the side of my head. I felt something trickling out. I felt how deflated my head was, and felt the wind passing through it. It was horrible. I suffered like that for a while. I must have lived 100 or so lives, all involving that fucking thing in some way or another. One time, I woke up in a hospital room with them operating on me. Another time, I woke up in a prison courtyard being put to work, working with some weird materials I had never seen before. The thing that I saw most often was some kind of military conflict. Sometimes I would wake up just in time to see the mushroom clouds and the world start to fall. Other times I would be on a battlefield fighting Russians or Mexicans most commonly, weirdly enough. And those things would always appear, like they had planned all of it. And eventually, I woke up back in that mall in a puddle of sweat. By then, the screaming had stopped. There was a pool of blood by my head. I think it came from my ear. Some people in black gear, I think military-style stuff, spotted me. They gave me some kind of pill and loaded me onto a stretcher. They told me everything would be okay and that everything was handled. Everything after that just felt like a fever dream. I got sent to the hospital and got charged so much I was praying I would wake up again. I barraged the doctors with questions, but they had an explanation for everything. That I had passed out when the fireworks went off. That I passed out from fright and had some kind of anxiety response or something. That everything I saw and experienced was just a dream. That the brain can make up new worlds and realities to comfort us and protect us from harm. Bull fucking shit. None of those dreams were comforting. That is about the extent of what happened to me. I did not get the chance to see any kind of aftermath or ask anyone important any questions. I am not an insider or in the know or anything, and didn't just manage to happen upon some documents that explained everything to me. I still wonder sometimes if what I saw was real, if the life I lived was the real one, and this is the fake one. I don't know if those dreams were the future, or a different reality, or something else. I have way more questions than answers. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. This happened a hella long time ago, but it still creeps me out to this day. Be me, I was 12 years old at the time this happened. I was walking with a group of about 5 or so friends. We decided to go to the shops, so we walked through the shortcut that connects the western area of my town to the town center. We start to approach the town center. We are just about to cross over the train tracks. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, I see this kid who can't be any more than 7 years old to the right of us, about 30 meters away. He is dressed in full red attire, red polo shirt, red cargo type shorts, red sneakers. He has dirty blonde hair with a smug look on his face. I mention to my friends about this kid and tell them to look, but no one else can see him besides me and this Aboriginal / Torres Strait Islander guy that we are with. One of my friends was colorblind, so I don't know if that affected his perception. Another was in a big rush to get over to the shops because he was hungry, and another dude was on the phone from what I recall. Suddenly, this kid starts waving frantically, like he is waving goodbye to someone, which is befitting considering we were right near a railway and an abandoned train station. I ask my friends again if they can see him. They still say no, besides the one other guy I mentioned who could see him. Suddenly, after about 10 to 15 seconds of waving, this kid does a 180 and run towards the train station at full speed. And I am not talking a fast-paced walk. This kid fucking sprinted like he was running away from something. I chase after him as he seems in trouble or is leading us somewhere. The Aboriginal guy follows my lead, and the rest follow reluctantly, whilst bemoaning that the two of us are just joking around about this kid running toward the train station. The kid runs into this little alcove that is at level with the railway underneath the train station. As we get in there, we see that he has completely disappeared. This was in the middle of the day, so we could see just about everything inside this alcove. We start to think we hallucinated the whole thing. The Aboriginal guy crawls into this opening and notices a ladder leading up into this abandoned train station. The train station at the time was bolted and locked up due to it being marked for demolition, so we assume this was the only way to get in there. We all crawl in and one by one go up the ladder. Once we are all inside, we look around and try to see if the kid could have gotten out any other way. But everything is bolted shut. There is no other damage to the building, so there is no other crawl spaces to escape from. We start calling out to the kid, shouting names of kids that we knew from school that we thought resembled him. My other friends are starting to doubt me. Even the Aboriginal guy is starting to doubt what he saw. We all leave. Fast forward about 12 years, I am now 24 years of age. I am taking the rubbish bin outside, and for some odd reason, this experience pops back into my head. I look out to the curb where I am about to drop off the bin for garbage collection. This fucking kid, same red clothes, same look, has not aged a day, is standing on the opposite side of the road, just waving at me. I've got a few stories to share, but I am at work and on my cell phone, so I will give you the gist of some. I grew up on a small secluded street, smack dab in the middle of 3 cities. All of the original houses were hand-built by their original owners in the 1940s or 1950s. My house was number 1. My grandparents were next door, and next door to them was my best friend's place. My best friend's house was built by my grandfather, a German immigrant, and his friend, a high-ranking ex-Luftwaffe officer in hiding. We just knew him as Mr. Werner, but that was not his real name. But I digress. It is wintertime, around the year 2002. Myself and my friend were riding our bicycles during a snowstorm, because why not? We are riding past Werner's old house. My friend's parents must be doing laundry, because steam is coming from a dryer vent. The steam and snow start mixing in the wind. It takes the form of an old man, wearing what looks like a southwester hat. He is just standing there, staring at me. I promptly fall off of my bike, and the guy is gone. Some years later, my friend's parents are renovating / landscaping. They dig up a concrete walkway around the edge of the house, which borders my grandparents' place. They find bones mixed in with the concrete. My grandfather helped to build the house, so he must know what the fuck this is. My friend and I go to him. We talk to him and say, "Granddad, why are there bones in the concrete?" He just laughs at us and says, "There aren't any bones in there." And that was the end of it. My friend's brother found the box of bones and threw it in the trash because he thought it was garbage. Here is another story. I am around 8 years old this time. It's a stressful time in my life. My parents were divorcing. I was molested by my aunt. Anyways, I would frequently hear this groaning sound from the crawl space / attic in our house. It was only late at night, and I was the only one who ever heard it apparently. It freaked me out, so I would go and sleep in my mom's bed. I woke up around 2 to 3 a.m. in my mom's bed, except I was not in my mom's bed. I was floating about 5 feet above it. When I finally realized what was happening, I fell and bounced on the bed. My mom woke up and cursed me out for jumping on the bed. I tried to explain to her what the fuck just took place, but she was not having any of it. I brought this up with her last year, and she did not remember it. And one last story. This is around the same time frame as the last story. I am between 7 and 8 years old. I wake up at around 1 a.m. in my room. I get out of bed, open my door, take a left, and walk down a set of stairs, take another left, and stand at the top of another set of stairs. Don't ask me why. At the bottom of these stairs is 2 doors, one on the right wall leading to a rec room, the other at the bottom of the stairs, which leads to our back door. I just stand at the top of these stairs for what feels like 30 seconds. The door on the right slowly opens. A light shines through the door and fills the area. An arm slowly protrudes from the doorway and beckons me to come closer. I think the most unsettling part of this is what the arm looked like. Imagine the wooden marionettes from the Robux commercials. I stand there for what feels like 15 minutes, watching this thing wave me over. I feel kind of nervous, but I am more confused or mesmerized than anything. I hear a noise from the hallway above where the bedrooms are. My mom asks me what the fuck I am doing up by myself at 7 in the morning. I look back down at the stairs. Nothing is there, and the door is closed. I used to work for the owner of a couple of Miami strip clubs from 2006 to 2012. Work for is the wrong word. He was like my father. He was a friend of my father's, and when my father went to prison, he took me under his wing. I was initially just doing yard work in his house after a hurricane, but soon after I got my license, I was driving strippers to and from work, driving my boss around Miami, and occasionally accompanying him to drug deals. Toward 2009, I was my boss's assistant, helping him with his strip clubs, and he started promoting regular nightclubs too. My mom did not approve, but she did not work, and I was bringing money into the house. This went on for a few years. It was chill. I started selling drugs myself. I was banging strippers on a regular basis. I was living life. I had dropped out of high school, but was making more money than everyone I knew. This was around 2010. I drove an M3. I knew promoters and different celebs and their agents. When Mayweather's people called my boss's people, I was oftentimes answering that call and making the appropriate arrangements to accommodate him. I was the shit until 2012. In the year 2012, my boss says he needs me to do something different for a few months. If you don't know about Miami, the western edge is the fucking Everglades. It's the end of civilization as I knew it at the time. There is a large city called Homestead, about 30 miles south of Miami. A decent portion of it is fucking ghetto, but a decent portion is farmland, obviously surrounded by the Everglades. My boss had a brother he always mentioned that was in, you guessed it, prison. He was about to be released, but was going to be living in a halfway home near the Redland. For the next few months, I would be basically providing security for his brother. I asked my boss if his brother was a snitch and needed protection, because I was not down for that shit. He said no. He just wanted someone to keep an eye on his brother. There were all sorts of legal bullshit my boss had to deal with, but basically, he was able to convince the folks running the home to allow me to be on the premises from midnight until 6 a.m. and keep an eye out. Really, all I was doing was hanging out in my car from midnight till 6 and collecting a few $1,000s a week for my task. Pretty chill, right? Just a disclaimer, I do not do drugs and alcohol. Drugs destroyed my mother and father, and I was always about staying 10 toes down. So basically, I would never get caught on drugs by anyone trying to do harm to me. So when I first started seeing the shit, I knew something was wrong. I heard a stone hit the back of my car and got out and see a dark figure near the front of my house. I yelled my boss's brother's Cuban-ass name, Yasiel or some shit. It just started walking toward the side of the home, which was wooded. I contacted the security officer at the halfway home, and the two of us went around to look for the figure. They did a head count inside the home and everyone was there. We could not find anything, and I walked back to my car. When I got to my car, I literally shit myself. In my driver's seat, there were 3 dead chickens and a fuck ton of blood. My instinct told me to call the police, but I called the security officer instead. When he came by, he told me that I should probably burn my car and get a new one, and we began to check around the property once again. We spent the rest of the night walking around, making sure no bullshit went on. 6 a.m. came, and I went back to my car, drove to the ghetto with a security officer in his car, bought towels, put them in my seat so I did not get soaked in blood, and went to a car detailing place. I told my boss all of this later that day when I went to lunch at the Strip. A few days later, I saw the same figure, this time walking in front of my car, and began to drive toward it. That's a nice way of saying it. Having spent $500 and dealing with police officers and explaining to them why there was a fuck ton of blood on my seat, I wanted to hit this bastard with my car. As I got close, it disappeared. At this moment, I knew I would quit after tonight, but it got worse. As I reversed back into the compound, I saw all the lights go on inside the house and the guards leaving the front, yelling. I drove up to the house and asked what was going on. We are missing 2 in the head count. Your boy is one of them. They just got out. We saw them 5 minutes ago. The protocol is to contact police and stay in the home in order to secure the other folks there. I did not have to follow this protocol, so I grabbed my Glock and started looking around the backyard of the halfway home. I saw where they escaped from. They had smashed a window and just jumped out like that. One of them must have had a bit of glass on them, since I could see a little trail going toward the Everglades where they ran toward. I walked to the edge of the backyard and saw the figure again. This time, I could make out its features. It was terrifying. It was like a man painted in all black with the sharpest pair of red eyes I ever saw. It looked at me like it wanted me. At this moment, even in the darkness of the Florida Everglades, I could see his features. It was naked and had pointy ears. It was bald. His skin was not black. It looked like mud when I focused in more. I then just noped the fuck out of there and went inside the home. Inside, in my boss's brother's room, was an altar. A Santeria one. He had a dead crow and some cigars and some beads and shit. I did not know too much about what the fuck I was looking at. When I went back to my car, again, in the driver's seat, was a headless chicken bleeding all over my seat. I just sat on the blood and drove with the dead chicken in my car and went home. I had a falling out with my boss afterward. He blamed me for his brother's escape. His brother was never found, but the guy he escaped with was apprehended. I don't know what he had to say, but I don't care, quite frankly. I moved out of state soon after finding out I was under investigation, along with my boss and some coworkers, for various offenses, including the incidents at the halfway house where they thought I aided their escape. I cannot sleep anymore either. I've been on a decent dose of Xanax and Valium the past few years. I keep having nightmares about that night, but it's not just a scary dream. It's like the man is there, in my brain, making sure I stay awake to see his face. I was looking out of my bedroom window late one summer night at the stars. I noticed an oddly colored flashing star that was 100% moving. If you've ever seen a ping pong ball held up suspended by an airflow, that was the type of movement. I would say bubbling is a good description. This had me weirded out, so I pull out my phone and start recording it. Maybe 10 seconds later, the most terrifying thing I have ever seen happens. A fucking beam of white light, cylindrical and bright, not as much as a helicopter spot search, but a high-power flashlight, appears in my neighbor's backyard, like a literal beam from heaven, maybe 8 feet in diameter, and from the blackness of space, as far up as I could see. No source or anything visible. The light is first pointing in the center of their backyard, which is maybe 45 feet away from my face. My window is on side of the house at the rear. Then it starts frantically moving around as if it was searching for something. I felt this in my whole body immediately. I was like, it's looking for me. My stomach is on the floor. Then it moves up the side yard towards the front of the house. It's still in the neighbor's property, but now only 20 feet away from where I'm standing. It then diverted onto the side of their house and scanned up the wall to a window. It went directly across from me, 15 to 20 feet. I slammed my window down closed, shut the blackout curtains, and quickly left my room and went to a bathroom in the center of the house with no window visible. This was so fucking terrifying and world-changing that I cannot express it with words. It 100% happened, and I felt it in my bones and everything. I had this feeling that it was a warning or something, like, do not film or bring attention to me/us. It had to know that it wasn't my window and was trying to frighten me. If it detected me filming with a phone from a star that is not our sun position in the sky, far as hell, it 100% knew exactly where I was. The neighbor's window would not have even had a vantage point due to how it was positioned. I was viewing it 45 degrees over the 2-story house, so the neighbor in that window direct facing my window could not physically see it or where it was. That and the gut feeling that I mentioned are why I feel it was warning or intentionally scaring the life out of me. It put on a "we are searching for you" show right in front of me, intentionally to dissuade me from giving it focused attention, filming. It worked too, if that's the actual case. I still have not scanned the night sky since then, and that was 2 to 3 years ago, and I used to really look up at night for stuff a lot.